turkey has been consumed. And the stuffing. And mashed potatoes. And pumpkin pie. And the cranberry sauce.
Is this... that's like almost Venom.
Almost.
But
almost. He has a little bit more of a... It's less like, the bottom of your throat.
yeah.
It's more like just scratchy.
Yeah.
Right.
And it goes into the top of his mouth a little more.
Yep. It's like halfway between like an orc and Venom, somewhere in there.
Me not that kind of orc.
I don't like being stereotyped. Speaking of stereos,
And what
Types.
type of stereos? Was that a transition?
no,
Then what are you trying to say?
I don't know. We were what? Never mind. How Thanksgiving? It was a thing. It was very good.
It
How,
happened.
We gave the thanks.
how were people's Thanksgiving holiday?
'Twas very good. We had all of my immediate family home, all 14
Same.
of us, 16 if you count the in-utero.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole lot of yelling and accusations.
Oh.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf is a fun time.
Oh yes. It's been a couple of years since I played that, but it was good fun.
Yes. I developed a very consistent strategy where I would always claim the same thing at the beginning, just to be consistent, so I could be...
So people were
If I
constantly...
lie every time, they won't be suspicious of me lying, basically.
And you want people suspicious.
Well, not when you're, a townsman, but when you're a werewolf or on their team, then yeah. But yeah, that was very fun. Other than that, just, the food, the people. We had about 3 birthdays we celebrated, truncated.
The
to
great
weekend.
triumvirate.
Right. So that was good.
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar deal with... Spent 4 days at home with my immediate family and also their spouses, and got to hang out with my nephews and my niece quite a bit. So that was it was a good old time. It was it didn't feel super short at the time, but then on Sunday I was like, dang, that went quick.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the days were very full days, but it was a rather altogether pleasant Thanksgiving. Good food, good company, lots of games and silliness, good fun. So yes, I had a good time. How was Thanksgiving at seminary?
Well, it wasn't at seminary.
Oh right, you guys had to.
You went to
We
Wisconsin?
do get to leave here every
That's
now
true.
and again.
That's right. You went to Wisconsin. How are
I
the?
did. I spent a little bit of time in Wisconsin with my aunt. Stayed at her place, and my cousin just had a baby 4 months ago, so I got to meet her for the first time.
Very cool. Very cool.
It was neat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had a whole week off, so I just kind of did a little homework in the mornings and got some good rest and relaxation in the
Nice.
rest of the time.
It would appear, it would audibly appear that you've got your graphics card situation sorted out.
I have got it sorted out.
I have received this today, which I'm audibly showing the camera. It's also, is
that's
that
the one
forwards for you?
That's the one I have, I think.
Okay. So yeah, I got that
Your
SSD.
We should audibly explain it.
I purchased a solid state drive for my computer because the hard drive is starting to slow down a bit, and I don't like it. I want to use my
specifically
computer
an
for a while longer.
NVMe solid
Yes.
state drive.
970 Evo Plus. So which I managed to get for a decent price despite the global chip shortage. People, the British be hurting for their potato wedges, and we're hurting for our crisps. With the global chip shortage.
It's the other way around.
Is it?
Yeah, we have chips, they have crisps.
Yeah.
Right, but
I
he was leading up to it. He didn't want to say chips.
But he said we are short on our crisps.
Which is what they call chips. But
I flipped it around.
Yeah, and he said potato wedges for them because they call fries chips.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole lead up.
It's a bit that didn't make sense.
Yeah, the delivery. I did flip it around, and I guess I didn't really set that up. But, oh well. Let's see. Exciting things happening.
Well, speaking of computer stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, Nathan.
I bought the PC to build on Cyber Monday.
Nice.
It was like I went to PC Parts Picker, looked at one of their middle of the road recommended default builds, slightly modified it with some other things I needed.
Nice.
And that should be coming in over the next couple of weeks.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of gadgetry about the place.
Yes. Nathan is joining the master race.
I guess I am.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of
his loyalty won't be fully to it, of course.
No, but I'm allied in your cause.
Yeah. Yes.
Also, because of
he's the Italy in this situation.
When I was ordering the parts on Amazon, it was like,
Hence
hey, you can get a
Mario.
free month of Amazon Prime, and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then I looked on the Amazon Prime game thing, and I was like, oh, you're giving away a free copy of Control? Yes, please. And so
that
now I
seems to
have
be the
that
free
on my
copy
GOG
thing to do
account.
these days.
Huh?
So
That
I'll be
seems-
able to play that immediately upon getting my PC set up.
That seems to be the giveaway deal these days is Control, because you got us the code, and
I got mine from Amazon Prime, so he got it from the same place I got it.
So that's only if you do a new subscription.
No, it's one of the things they offer as a perk of online
It's on
gaming.
Twitch Prime.
On Twitch, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't have Twitch. That's why. I
It's-
have Amazon Prime, but I don't have Twitch.
But
Yeah, if you link
Twitch,
your Amazon
you
gaming
automatically
account.
get Twitch Prime if you have Amazon Prime. So all you have to do is have a Twitch account, because Amazon owns Twitch.
Right.
So
Okay. I guess I've never really looked into what sort of games opportunities.
Well, there was just a whole bunch of extra content and DLC, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to play Fall Guys, thank you.
I
Yeah.
just
Or
got
League of Legends, or
I just
whatever.
got Frostpunk today for free off of the monthly Prime deals.
Frostpunk.
Yes. So I'll have to give that a shot sometime here.
Yeah. Let's see what else is exciting. Oh, I went down a good old games rabbit hole and found a couple of games from my childhood. One of which I had a CD copy, but I couldn't get it to work on my PC. But the good old game version worked. It's a World War II strategy game, and I was like, ooh. The soundtrack was burned into my brain, and I had a little happy feeling inside when I heard the noise of tanks and planes and screaming.
GOG.
It was an inverse flashback. It's like
Smiles as yeah. No, but it was
GOG
kind of
really is a wonderful little thing, because it's got all the big nice modern games, but it also has these things you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Or things that you had some I don't know, one random CD copy of that you got from Goodwill or something.
Yep.
I have an account on GOG before this because I discovered that you could get the Jill of the Jungle trilogy for free on there, which is old PC platformers by Epic Games. And I had the first one. It was it was one of those things where they would release the first chapter as shareware that you would pass around to everybody, but then made you buy part 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doom did that, and a couple other notable games did that. Of course, most people only just copied and shared part 1 and only played part 1 and didn't buy the rest. And that was the case with our copy of this random little jungle platformer. It was fun.
Speaking of old games, I guess Andrew at some point convinced Michelle to
start King's Quest 6.
Yes. I was like,
Interesting.
Apparently she's tolerating it
yeah.
for his sake.
I mean, it's about on par with the Reader Rabbit games she would have played when we were young. That's as far as Michelle's gaming career got. Sam the
You're
Lion.
telling me
and Reader
Michelle's not
Rabbit.
an esports pro?
Far from it, but that's okay.
Well, maybe part of it is the fact that all the other games that she's ever experienced people play in her childhood were World War II shooty games.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
And that might put her off to the concept a little more.
I mean, Math Munchers kind of slapped. Just saying.
True. Frogger?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I still have that. That's, the funniest thing to me is that still works. I've never beaten it after all this time. There's
We
just
should stream you trying to
Frogger
beat that
stream?
game.
Oh, boy.
The Frogger stream.
That
Oh,
sounds
boy.
like great YouTube content.
Oh yeah. Well, we got to get through Metopia, but I suppose these things aren't. Hey, you know what? When you're up, there's obviously we're going to do everything on God's green earth when Riley's up on Christmas vacation, obviously. But we could theoretically get Isaac out here.
Do some more Metopia, but in person.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
that would be cool.
Amigos secret.
But yeah, there'll be that, and yeah, we can stream we could do a Frogger stream or something like that. That'd be fun.
Maybe I should get you to play the other King's Quest games also. I only got you to play 5 so far.
5 was fun. I liked 5.
It was my childhood favorite.
It was
but
entertaining.
6 is good, and honestly, some of the old ones where you can only interact with them through text are also pretty fun. There's some nice outside the box puzzles.
Yep.
I think 3, 4, 5, and 6 are my favorite.
I still have all the DOSBox stuff on here.
Oh yeah, I think you have all the games that I think I just dropped a folder full of those games that run on DOSBox.
Yep. So good stuff. Well, speaking of dropped boxes, we're the Palladian Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
What edition?
We're
of the
doing an
podcast?
edition of Gregarious Games this week for A Plague Tale: Innocence.
Oh.
Aha.
So yes, we get gregarious about games. I don't know, whatever. We're moving on.
So, The Plague Tale: Innocence is a game developed by Focus Interactive, released in 2019, I believe. And it's a story of kind of the Black Death era, 1300s France. And we begin in an idyllic French countryside manor where Amicia de Rune, our main character, is out spending time with her father, practicing her sling. That's definitely not coming in later.
That's not a tutorial segment for major combat.
Nope, it's definitely not. And, they're just hanging out, having fun, doing father and daughter stuff. And Amicia's mom is back at the
And
house.
she's got it going on back at the house.
Amicia's mom has got it going on. And she's taking care of her younger brother, Amicia's younger brother, Hugo, who's 5 and has a rare disease that gives him frequent headaches, and it's generally a bothersome condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why she's not out accompanying them. And so Amicia and her father are out on a walk, and with their beloved pet Leon, is lion, but spelled in French.
Mm-hmm.
It's pronounced like a French person.
Yes.
All of the characters in this game have the
Thick French accents.
Except the lady who voices Amicia is actually a French girl. So
Oh, neat. There you go.
Huh.
it when you first hear it, you kind of sound like, this sounds kind of forced. But then I looked it up later. I'm
It's
like,
like-
oh, she's actually French.
Elle est français.
Anyway, so they're out on a walk, and Amicia spots a boar, so she's like, that'll be tasty. So she
Eat it
takes
with
it out
my
the
baguettes.
This will go nicely with a feast for tonight. And so she slings it, and Leon runs up to retrieve it, and all of a sudden a giant hole bursts out of the ground and swallows up Leon and the boar, and they're like, what is going on?
What is
What's
this,
happened?
Florida?
I mean, it's
French
So-
Florida.
French Florida. So they're all
Episode
freaked out
title,
about
bam.
that. So they go inside to talk to the mum. And mum says, all right, this is bad. I don't know why she's Australian all of a sudden.
That's like the default podcast
it
accent.
is my default podcast accent. Anyway,
Just start giving each character different accents, even though they're all in France.
even though they're all...
Brother Hugo is Russian for some reason.
Hugo
Anyway,
is
so
also
hole in the ground, talk to mom. She say this bad.
She's taking care of Hugo, and Amicia is not generally allowed in because, Hugo's sensitive, and so she pretty much doesn't know Hugo at all. Like, they don't have a working relationship. They don't
Sure.
see each other. So she goes in and says, hey, Hugo, how's it going? He's like, oh, this is how I talk because I'm 5 years old. And they have an awkward conversation because they don't actually know each other very well. And while they're up in there, the Inquisition rolls up and storms the house.
Quite unexpectedly.
Nobody expected them,
No,
No.
of course not.
and so Mum says, "We've got to leave. They're coming after Hugo. Got to get out of here." So they escape the house with Hugo and Mom in tow, and they do stereotypical stealth game tactics, such as hiding in tall grass where clearly no one can see you, even though your head is sticking out of it,
Right.
and throwing rocks at conveniently located chests full of armor that just so happen to be laying about the property, in order to distract the guards so that they can get through the spots that they were looking at before.
Right.
Standard stealth game stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're getting away. They close the gate as they're exiting the garden, and the butler gets stabbed, and then Mom gets stabbed through the door with a sword. And so
Okay.
they're like, Mom's like, go, run, get away now. And they don't want to leave their mom, of course, but they're just like, we don't want to get stabbed through a door. So they keep on going. They continue the escape all
We
on
don't
their
want to
own.
get eaten by a giant Titan man.
No, and we certainly don't want to expect the French Inquisition, I guess.
No.
So they continue their escape. They go through some nearby villages where they're not welcomed because there's a plague going around and nobody wants to go
Bring out your
outside
dad.
or let people in that they might spread the plague around.
Mm-hmm.
They get cornered by some drunken greengrocer from Luton with an Instamatic and Dr. Skull, sandals and Tuesdays Daily Express that Amicia has to kill in order to protect Hugo because he's convinced that they're the reason the plague is around, and those sneaky Daroons, nobody likes them. There's the Inquisition propaganda is running around.
Mm-hmm.
So she really would like to avoid killing this guy, but there's no choice about it. If she doesn't, then she'll die and Hugo along with her. So she does it, throws a sling into his noggin, and it's a bad deal.
Uh-huh.
And she's not happy about that, but she's got to keep going. So they go to seek out Laurentius, who's an alchemist who's been helping their mother, Beatrice, concoct a cure for Hugo's disease.
Uh-huh.
So they go through a churchyard, and they meet a monk, and he's like, okay, we'll get you on through to the other side, but I'm warning you, I'll take you through the monastery, even though I'm clearly a Franciscan, and they don't live in monasteries. But we'll take you through the monastery, to the other side where you can get to Laurentius's estate.
I'm sure the Benedictines won't mind we're taking you through their monastery.
Certainly not. So, as they're going through, a big swarm of rats jumps out and swallows Mr. Monk.
Oh no.
Ooh.
That's a bad time. But Amicia and Hugo have a torch, and the rats, stay in a ring around them.
They just want to cook.
So they don't like the light. If you've got some light, they won't come eat you.
Mm-hmm.
So they continue making their way to Laurentius's farm, and they eventually arrive there, and they meet with his assistant Lucas, who's about Amicia's age, 12 or 14 or so.
Sure.
Who's taking care of him because he is quite ill. And he's like, I don't have much time left, but you should flee to Chateau d'Umbra. There's a secret castle in a secret valley. And they do, because that's the only place that will really be safe, because nobody remembers that this giant castle exists in the hidden valley.
Right, it's a hidden castle in a hidden valley.
Where they keep the ranch.
That have names, so clearly nobody remembers them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, nobody remembers that it's there. Because the Inquisition are coming after Laurentius too, so if they stay, they'll just get caught again.
Right.
So they follow the aqueduct towards the secret castle, and Hugo has an episode.
Secret castle. Through the aqueduct. Okay.
No, it's not through the aqueduct. They just follow it.
Oh, well.
And
leads to nobody has thought to check the end of this aqueduct to see where it goes.
No.
To see that there's a giant hidden castle there. But Lucas tells them that the disease is called the prima macula. He doesn't really know what causes it, but he's heard Laurentius say that. So they cross through a battlefield where the English and the French were duking it out. And there's a few English soldiers left there that they have to evade, which they do. And they run into some thieves who help them escape after they're caught by the aforementioned soldiers. The names of these thieves are Melly and Arthur Arthur gets caught. He's up on the ramparts making a distraction, and he gets left behind, so that the others can escape. And Melly is distraught, but she's much more of a coarse, worldly individual than Amicia is. She hasn't had a comfortable life. She's been, on the lower end of society, so she's kind of a foil to Amicia, who's kind of more
kind of naive,
innocent, who's slowly starting to lose that innocence. Hey,
right,
maybe that's a theme here.
Perhaps.
Roll credits.
They haven't said Plague Inc. Rat Tail or whatever the title is.
A Plague's Tale, Innocence. We got the innocence part.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the innocence part will continue throughout, but
Innocence.
So they finally.
It took a while. There it is.
That one took me a little bit. It usually doesn't.
Sorry. They continue to find the secret castle.
They found the castle, and lo and behold, there's a bunch of rats there, so they have to... But the castle appears to have been built specifically to deal with rats. So there's braziers along the wall that you push along, and it pushes all of the rats into a pit in this multi-tiered setup. Even though the
puzzle time.
Yeah, it's puzzle platform. No, it's not platform. It's puzzle stuff. But you also wonder why such a castle was built if this plague is something that has only occurred so recently.
Perhaps it's happened before.
So Melly's decided, once they've settled down, that she wants to go back and see if Arthur's still alive. Hugo his illness is getting worse, and they need some ingredients from the city to make a concoction to remedy the symptoms. So Amicia agrees to go along so she can find out some more about that. They're looking for a book called the Sanguinis Itinera that has the formula for this remedy. So Amicia goes to the university while Melly kind of goes off to the prison, so they split up. Amicia goes through the university and encounters a young man named Roderick, who is there kind of being interrogated by the Inquisition, because he built the chamber where the book is being stored.
Where's the wimpy kid at?
And the chamber has a special lock on it that nobody knows how to open. So Roderick was one, and his father were the ones who built the chamber where the book is being stored. And the Inquisition can't get in there because it has a special lock on it, and they're trying to get him to tell them how to open it. He's like, I'd rather die. And they're like, we can arrange that. But Amicia shows up with her alchemical concoctions and causes some chaos and helps Roderick escape and get into the chamber. And so they have a conversation and do co-op puzzle solving, like so much of this game is based on. And they go and get the book and are going to sneak out, but lo and behold, the big bad is outside waiting for them when they show up.
Oh.
So
Who's big bad?
Big bad is the Grand Inquisitor Vitalis, who looks like a bishop. He's wearing a mitre and stuff. So obvious church bad things going on here. But interestingly, that will be developed later. But it's meant to evoke an immediate church bad reaction.
Sure.
And so he goes on his villainous monologue, and Amicia, prepares some explosives and lights the place on fire to give them an escape during the monologue. So they go back to the castle and have a brief respite. Hugo is kind of stabilizing after they've put the concoction together, but he's not much closer to being cured. And so they figure there must be some clues back at the family house that they can work with. So Amicia and Lucas make the trip back there. And as they're making their way in, they see that all of the dead bodies are still there. They weren't consumed by the rats, which is unusual. And even more strange is the fact that Hugo's room is completely untouched, whereas the rest of the house has been overrun by rats' nests and such. So that's curious. So they find a secret cellar through a series of riddle-solving shenanigans. And so they start making the potion in the secret lab in the secret cellar, when all of a sudden a big old pile of rats burst in. And now the rats are doing rat tornadoes, which is scary.
We're the rats.
We're the rats.
Because ordinarily they won't come towards the light, but if they're in a tornado, apparently they'll sacrifice some of their own so that they can jump in.
For the tornado, my brothers.
So you gotta throw fiery stuff at them to get them to not. And so you fend off the rat tornadoes while Lucas works on the potion. And the instant he finishes it, the rats just chill out. They calm down and they run off. Which is weird, but okay. I guess we'll
They
take it.
respect the PK
Boss
fire.
fight timed sequence over. Let's go to the next.
You definitely won't need to know how to deal with that later.
Well, this is plot relevant. That is, there's a reason this happens. So we wake up and we would go back to the castle. Amicia wakes up and Hugo is missing. He is nowhere to be found, and everyone searches the whole castle and they can't find him anywhere. Where did Hugo? So Amicia has some bad dreams and hallucinations about her guilt at having lost him. And at the very end, she sees in her dream Hugo at the Inquisition base with Nicholas, who's the big scary captain of the Inquisition's military arm. and they learn that Vitalis has taken some of Hugo's blood and injected it into himself to gain the powers of the macula, which we have come to understand now Hugo has the ability to control rats.
Dun, dun, dun.
By virtue of his... It's kind of a disease, but it's kind of not.
Ratatouille reverse
it's a gift
card.
and a curse.
It is Ratatouille reverse card.
I control the rats.
But yeah, he has in his blood the power to command the rats. And so Vitalis wants that for himself so he can take over the world
With
Wow.
rats.
with rats. So make everyone fear him enough to never challenge his rule. So Hugo is in fact there at the Inquisition hideout base thing. And being a small child, he's conveniently able to squeeze through holes in the brickwork in his cell and get out. So he is overheard from the guards that his mum is there.
Oh.
What? I thought Mum was dead. And Amicia has been telling him this whole time, Mom's dead. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to move on. But he's latched onto this hope that his mom is still alive. So he wanders around the jail and finds her and says, Mom, let's escape. And she's like, no, Hugo, you gotta get out of here. Leave me behind. Hugo says, nope, I'm not leaving until you come with me. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna teach you how to control the rats. So you can use the rats to solve the puzzles you need to reach the keys. So she teaches him, and he goes and retrieves the keys from the jailer while sicking the rats on several of the guards like you do. Mm-hmm. And busts Beatrice out of jail, and they proceed to escape. But psych! Vitalis is once again waiting for them at the exit. He's like, good, you now can control the rats. Let the heat flow through.
You thought the rats were your ally.
Well, while Hugo is sneaking around, one of the cardinals from Rome shows up and is like, Vitalis, you gotta stop this. The Pope has commanded you to shut down this operation. You must cease and desist. And he says, your opinion has been heard, but rats. So he sicks his rats on the official, and Vitalis has white rats that only his power can command.
Oh,
The white rats don't listen to Hugo.
He has white rat power.
He has white rat power, whereas Hugo has brown rat power.
Uh-huh.
This will become important later.
I see.
So back at the castle, Amicia is in real sad girl hours. She lost her one surviving family member that she knows about. She doesn't know her mom is still alive. So she's kind of sad about that, but she's trying to vibe with her newfound family of ragtag teenagers just trying to eke out their existence in this secret castle that nobody knows about, especially not Hugo.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Now that Hugo's been captured by the bad guys, he's definitely not gonna, come back
and lead the bad guys
with
to
the bad guys. Nope, that's not happening next.
No, that's not
actually that's happening next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shocker.
So
Wow.
Nicholas shows up with Hugo, and he's like, "Come out here. I'm gonna kill all you stupid little kids." But they're better than him because they can extinguish his little fire that keeps the rats off of him. So they extinguish his fire and sick the rats on him, and he die. And the gang has decided that enough is enough, and they're gonna go settle the score with the Inquisition. So they get on up, and they go to the city, and Roderick sacrifices his life to hold open a gate and gets shot full of arrows in the process. But the rest of the gang gets through, and Amicia and Hugo have a rat showdown with Vitalis. where they take turns, sicking their rats on each other and defeating each other's rat tornadoes, and a fun little gameplay sequence. And they beat Vitalis and Vivin.
Huzzah! A winner is you.
And afterwards, Amicia and Hugo and their mom are, trying to eke out a life because the castle got burned down, so they can't go back there. And their family's back together. What of it is left, and nothing will ever be the same as it was, but at least they can be happy with what they have now. The end.
Yep.
The end.
Interesting. So, pretty cool. Riley, you played this. I watched a gameplay video like 2 years ago of this, so I remember a lot of the plot points, but
I'm aware of it and that Riley was playing it, but beyond that, this is more or less the first I've heard about it. So.
Yep. What are some cool things you like about the game, having played it?
One of my favorite things about this game is that it's just a story, It's the gameplay is extremely light.
Kind of like Way Out that way, where there's like some puzzle elements and gameplay things to do, but it's more about participating in the story.
Right. The narrative is the focus. It's what everything is in service to,
Mm-hmm.
And the gameplay mechanics are kind of integrated into that. And the sequences are pretty scripted. There's not a lot of decision making that goes on, and there's not a whole lot of consequences for the decisions that you do make, because it's got a preset narrative that it wants to take you through.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that to be a neat decision, because a lot of games these days try to make it about we've got this whole big morality system, and
you can make a choice.
There's
Open
complicated mumbo jumbo about all that, but Plague Tale's like, you know what? I have a story that I want to tell.
This is
And
it
I'm
right
gonna
here. Have fun.
I'm going to kind of shoehorn you through it in not a ham-fisted way, but it's just like, in order to progress, you need to do these things that sort of are counterintuitive to Amicia, or kind of against her code of morals.
Sure.
Because she's an innocent young girl. She doesn't kill people. She doesn't swear. She doesn't do any of this stuff. But slowly, one thing after another, she has to kill Connor at the beginning, and that's the first time that she's ever killed a man. And so that impacts her deeply. And hanging out with Melly kind of, she rubs off on her, and she kind of picks up a few curse words here and there. And so she just kind of, she's had her innocence ripped from her at a untoward age. She's too young to be going through this stuff, but that's just the world she's living in right now.
'Twas the hand she was dealt.
And she does what she does in order to protect Hugo. That's everything she does revolves around that motive, because for most of the game, that's Hugo's the only thing she has left.
And that's kind of what her mother charged her with doing at the end, right? It was take him and run.
From the beginning,
From the
she's
beginning.
like, take care of Hugo. And even though she doesn't really know him, because they haven't had the opportunity to interact much, she still knows, deep in her heart that he's family, and that means a lot to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the whole, it's got this very clear narrative that it wants to establish, and a lot of the gameplay sequences are designed such that you have to interact with them a certain way in order to give Amicia the character development that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a valid approach to games. It's sometimes it's refreshing, like you said, to play a game that's got a very specific story, very specific experience it wants you to have, and then and go from there. And it's sort of more or less self-contained. So yeah, I think there's some value in that.
And that's, as I understand, the kind of approach that the new God of War or the Uncharted games also kind of do, where it's very much your adventure through the story with the characters that they set up, where it's just that narrative, and it's very narrative focused.
Yeah.
And there's some cool things you can do with narrative focused games, and the way that you can, tie together the story and the gameplay in a way that kind of pushes you forward and makes you feel like you're making the tough decisions with the characters, even though there's really only one decision set before you.
Yeah.
There's a few sequences where you can decide whether you want to, do it stealthy or do it aggressively.
Sure.
And those decisions don't really impact the outcome of anything.
It's just how easy or hard do you want to make the level? Or how badly can you mess up and still recover?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you the way to experience it in a way that suits your play style a little more.
And there's also a kind of progressive difficulty about it, where the opening sequences are very easy, and it's not like, apart from the sling quasi tutorial at the beginning, there's not a lot of overly tutorial-ish segments.
That's
it just
good.
kind of introduces new mechanics slowly
As they're
over
needed.
time, and those mechanics are narratively oriented, but are also used later on in more complex puzzles as the game progresses. So it's pretty neat in that it doesn't feel like you're getting...
It's not like gamey in the way that you start up Assassin's Creed and there's a whole 12-minute tutorial sequence where you got to do the specific moves in a specific
Where
order.
they explain every little thing to you so that you have your whole toolkit from the beginning. It slowly adds things, and they're gradually incorporated into more difficult sequences as it goes on. And the last couple are really, really neat. But, yeah.
Being control PK rat NATO. Yeah.
And they introduce challenges that make you think outside the box of the way you solved the problem before. Because some of the enemies start carrying torch maces. So their hammer will have a torch sconce attached to it. So you can't just sick rats on them anymore. You've got to think about a way to extinguish their fire or something.
Sure.
You can deal with them using the macula. So once you get used to a thing, it shakes up the paradigm of your normal problem solving to make you think outside the box a little bit.
So it never gets old or routine. It's constantly engaging.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's nice.
Very cool. Any other things you like? Any cool things you like to discuss?
I was also appreciative of how they didn't just go church bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a thing a lot of video games do.
A lot of modern media in general kind of does that.
Mm-hmm. But they kind of pulled the Uno reverse card on you.
Where it's no, this guy's a bad actor and the church does not approve of him.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's
And
very
even-
clear that he is kind of off his rocker and is willing to kill people that don't agree with him.
Isn't he also dressed in white too?
Yeah.
So, which is obviously sort of a anti-pope sort of posture, because only the pope wears white at clerics. So, yeah. I also find interesting the fact that there's British hanging out by a battlefield because of the whole 100 Years' War part of the setting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a neat little historical nod.
Yeah. It has a very historical base, and then
With
at first that's all it is. And
But
then
it slowly builds the fantasy on top of it.
right.
Which is kind of a cool approach. It kind of saves you from it starts out with a setting you more or less understand, and then it builds off of that, which That's kind of an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, slowly turning the heat up on, no, it's not actually everything you expect.
Yep.
And now we have a castle, a whole friggin' castle that nobody knows exists, like it's Beauty and the Beast or something.
Yep. And it teaches you how to control the rats. At least keep them away. But
then,
Yes.
then
And
the
it
rats
has
fight for
a
you.
funnel system that pushes them into a pit. That's a fun little gameplay sequence.
Did we get any history on the disease? Is this the first emergence of the disease?
No,
or-
it is not.
No, it's just kind
is
of
it genetic?
It's kind of one of those, there is always the avatar.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, every, there was somebody in Roman times that had it, and maybe it was like Julius Caesar or something. So there's, like, a connection with important people in history having been the possessor of it.
I see.
So there's not a whole lot of detail that goes into.
But it's
the-
just
yeah.
like vaguely alluded to as, yeah, this is a thing in this story, in this world.
in this world.
Okay.
And that idea may be developed more in the sequel.
There's a sequel upcoming?
There's a sequel that's going to be released at sometime in 2022, I believe.
Okay.
Interesting.
Is
So
it like,
we'll see where they go with that.
is it an earlier setting or a later setting, do you
It's
suppose?
immediately following the events
okay.
of one.
Direct sequel.
Direct
it.
sequel.
Because I imagine there are probably others that have
The Inquisition
come to be aware.
has not been, totally snuffed out. There are still people kicking around that know about the powers of the macula and covet it for themselves, perhaps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of directions they could go with it. It's called The Plague Tale Requiem. It's the title.
Okay.
Interesting.
So somebody's dying. That's all we know.
Yeah. That, and you could also have the thematic element of trying to find rest. Because,
Mhm.
Amicia's whole arc is, having her innocence pulled away. And that there's some thematic potential there in
Yeah, where does
Requiem
that
for them
land?
trying to find rest, but being unable to find it.
The mom survives?
Yes, mom
Okay, yeah.
survives.
We'll see how the
See how
sequel-
long she does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
See how that goes. Should we get into the transcendental analysis?
Yes, let us.
So, truth. What are some truths we can gather from Plague Tale Innocence?
Innocence is a good thing, and you should attempt to preserve it.
Especially in kids.
Yeah.
There are times where kids will go through something harrowing and have it taken away from them, and there's implications to that change the way they have to live.
Uh-huh.
You can't put it back.
Nope. Once you're forced to grow up too early, it sort of leaves a lasting mark.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of relational struggles that Amicia goes through in being the sudden caretaker of her brother,
Mhm.
because there's a sequence where she lashes out at him for being small and useless, and he runs away, and she has to chase after him in the middle of while the Inquisition is actively chasing them through the town.
Mhm.
So she kind of has to come to terms with her newfound role as a parent, basically, without being totally ready for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the whole, fighting for her life type of thing plays a role in that stress too.
But in equal measure, fighting for her brother's life.
Yeah. Yep.
And indeed, only because she's fighting for her brother's life does she decide to do these things.
Yeah.
Because if she were capable, she could, or if she is capable of running more so
Right.
than her brother. So she could, but she doesn't because her brother is important to her, because family, because she loves him without really knowing him.
It's kind of her innate sense of the importance of family, because she's very close with her father, and not so much. And that's kind of formed her into be who she is. It's her relationship with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
We also we did touch on the church bad, but not quite in this game.
The church bad
Angle.
narrative.
I suppose we could get into that a little bit.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a whole lot about inquisitions, whether Spanish or otherwise. And a lot of it is pretty misconstrued. Obviously, this is a work of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
No Ratnados for you, world.
No Ratnados were harmed in the making of this game.
You can rest easy, Peter.
But yeah, that is kind of a trend in games, and other stories.
There was
as well.
that dumb Robin Hood movie where the entire plot was church bad.
Except Friar Tuck. Oh wait, yeah. That Robin Hood movie was the what was it? Whatever year it came out, like 2019.
The one
or whatever.
that Mike just bought on a whim. It's like, hey, we should watch this. And we
Yeah.
did, and we were like, ew.
That was like the whole thing was church bad. I was like, wait, I thought King John was the bad guy. Anyway, we digress. But that's
the trend in modern media is to say church bad,
authority, all authority bad.
the Crusades bad, Inquisition's bad, and sure, absolutely, there were absolutely bad things about all of this stuff throughout history.
There was corruption. There was,
Turns out people in general kind of suck.
Yep.
On every level in every era.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean the church, the people, and the church, the institution, is like kind of two different things.
Yeah, and it's kind of a welcome change of pace that the game goes out. The game includes like the Pope basically being like, "Hey, stop that."
Because isn't the final boss one of the Assassin's Creed games like actually the Pope?
Is it?
I believe there's like Assassin's Creed 3 or something.
Is that the one in Florence or whatever?
Something like that. And Ezio literally like fights the Pope or something. I haven't played them all, so I don't really know. I've just heard, I've heard about it.
So what if the church was like basically the Illuminati? I don't know why I'm Beavis.
What if the church was the Masons, except not, because the Masons was built to stop to be very against the church.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I guess that's about all I had to.
That kind of wraps up the truth things.
Yeah, goodness. What is good in Plague Tale: Innocence?
Well, obviously, Amicia's care for her brother is one of the good points.
Mm-hmm.
She has despite all of her flaws and her inexperience, she's very dedicated to protecting him and loving him and making him feel at ease in the midst of his disease. Whenever he has an episode, you have a long tedious sequence of Amicia carrying him on her back for the last chunk of the level, basically, until the next checkpoint. So it's like you have to plod along with the weight of that, which just shows how much Amicia cares.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Plus, there's the various friends they made along the way, so to speak.
Yes, so to speak.
Who, contribute.
Check that box.
Yep. But there is Roderick, who sacrifices his life, to help them overcome the Grand Inquisitor.
As does Arthur earlier in the story.
Well, Arthur didn't die. I forgot to mention that.
Okay. But
he wasn't. When Melly went back at the same time as Amicia went to the university, they got Arthur busted out. So,
but Arthur got himself caught.
He came
to cover
back,
their
and then
escape.
he died again. Well, he didn't die again. He died in the attack on the castle by Nicholas.
Okay. So he has 2 acts of self-giving heroism. They just bring him back for this first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Beatrice is, despite her kind of workaholism, she's a good mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's protective of her children, and she teaches them well and is kind of encouraging but also firm. So
Yep.
yeah, she's a good mom.
And obviously was able to build up and Amicia to the point where she could trust her to take care of Hugo when she wasn't able to. So yeah, good
Good.
stuff. Beauty. What is beautiful about this game?
It's a very cinematic game. It definitely has that approach. Because of its narrative focus, it kind of works with the visual side of things a little more. With some of the cutscenes, you can tell that the people designing those kind of had some camera experience, and they knew how to develop some of those shots in the cutscenes. And the environments are great. The setting is kind of a nice, charming autumn, and then it slowly gets darker and browner, and
As winter shows up.
well, not as winter shows up, as the rats show up,
Okay.
and it eventually works its way into winter, where at the very end of the game, there's a good blanket of snow, and everything's white. So it's kind of that neat transition from everything's nice, but also it eventually it gets corrupted as the game goes on, and as winter rolls around, it's kind of wiped clean again.
Which
That's kind of
does-
an interesting motif there.
It does
Yeah.
parallel that theme of innocence we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Bright in color and then losing and growing cold, and yeah.
And going out to face the brutality of the world to try to start anew.
The harshness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So yeah,
So I
the
wonder-
visual,
Speculatively, I bet you the next game will probably do like the winter to spring transition. That's a guess.
I haven't seen any trailers. I don't know.
Huh? I don't either.
I don't
That's
know.
purely speculative. Based off the theming of the first game.
from the little that I have seen in the trailer, it doesn't seem like that's super in focus, but we'll see how they. A trailer's only 2 minutes, so you
Right.
don't get the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Unity.
terms I was.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
was there
were we
another
done with
beauty thing
beauty?
you were gonna?
I was just gonna say, is there anything else in terms of the visuals or the design or the sound or whatever?
The music is it's largely orchestral and kind of backgroundy. There's nothing
Cinematic.
nothing that really stands out about it.
Sure. But sets the mood.
It does set the mood, especially like the main theme is the one kind of unique piece, I would
Sure.
say, of the soundtrack. It's got these kind of jarring, dissonant cello riffs at the beginning, so it's kind of sets you up for that. And the title screen is a grayscale image of their house being overrun by rats. So
Huh.
there's some
Nice.
subtle visual cues and audio cues that right as the game opens to you.
And in general, stealth games, as I understand it, do a pretty good job like contextualizing mechanics with the level design. And where it's like it's a real environment, and you can use your knowledge of real environments to intuit your way through it and solve puzzles. Is this game kind of designed like that?
I would kind of, because it's too linear for that to really be
Sure.
true, because there's not a lot of intuiting when the solution is obvious for 3/4 of the game,
Sure.
and it's made to be obvious. I would say in the later levels that kind of comes out.
And it at the very least is cohesive and believable in terms of its like environment.
There's not a lot of crazy, the characters aren't athletes. They don't
Right.
have a lot of, physical prowess. They're a 14 and a 5-year-old. So that movement is kind of reflected, and the level design reflects that dynamic where they kind of use their creativity to help each other through obstacles that Hugo can't get through on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So
Yeah. No. That's
You
good.
can move on
No,
now.
that's good.
Good stuff.
That's good.
Good stuff. Unity. What brings it all together?
Innocence.
The
Yeah.
rats.
That is
the rats.
Reverse card.
Yeah, Innocence
yeah.
is really the theme that pulls everything together. The story, the environment, the character interactions.
I suppose the rats themselves, consuming and destroying everything in their sight, corrupting. It's sort of a symbol for everything crashing down around Amicia as she loses her innocence.
Perhaps.
Like it would have been living in that period with the plague and the death that comes with it, and people having to deal with the loss of family members and such.
Yeah.
Death on a catastrophic scale.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff. Any other comments?
Nope.
Alrighty, well, in that case, thanks for listening to the Palladium Papers. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Palapapus. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladiumpapus@gmail.com. And if you or a loved one suffer from rat tornadoes, dial your local Orton Pest Control. Anyway, we will talk to you guys again next week. Goodbye.
Au revoir.